Forex space, the predominant voices in that space are marketers. The focus is heavily on psychology. You're jumping from strategy to strategy, and every time you have a win, you're like, man, I'm doing good. Whenever you take a loss or you have a losing streak, you blame your psychology. So the conversation about edge is missing.
What is your strategy now?
Yeah, so primarily my strategy now is
Wow, this number really blows my mind. Over 75% of you who watch the show regularly are not subscribed. If you enjoy the show and want to support us, the easiest and also free way is just to hit that subscribe button. This will help us find new and better guests, and I promise you to continue to work at making this show better and bringing you more value. Welcome back, everybody, to Be The Trader. Today is going to be a great day because we're here in Dallas and I have my good friend Abdullah, who's been trading for over 5 years, and he's also been helping a lot of traders change their life. So Abdullah, welcome to the show, brother.
Man, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This is a nice spot, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you coming down or coming up to Dallas. So to get everyone started, to understand where you're coming from, what got you into trading?
Okay, so I'll start from like the beginning.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 themes I have in my life, like financial freedom, making a big impact on the world,
Yep.
and autonomy, right? So I grew up from a family of hardworking people, but we had financial struggles, right? So
Sure.
growing up in that environment, it caused me to want to finally like break out of, certain financial barriers, right?
Yes.
Like unchain the shackles of poverty.
Yep.
So that's something that's been sort of driving me. So I've always been entrepreneurial for my entire life. And then I think it gave me a sense of awareness and empathy towards people that were in like impoverished situations, right? So because of that, I always had like these grand dreams of making a big impact on the world or society. And then I think like growing up, whether it was school, like middle school, high school, I've always been like at the top of my class,
Yes.
but I always didn't have like the same resources that others had. So there was always a sense of limitation, right? So I think that's where autonomy comes in. So high school, I had businesses like little businesses like selling candy,
Yeah.
like selling
been your
T-shirts.
customer.
Yeah, I was like a little hustler, right?
Yep.
All the little fiends at school, little sugar fiends.
Yep.
So had businesses there. When I went to college, I had a graphic design business, software business. Graduated from college and became a software engineer. And a lot of the ambition that I had, the drive I had, I didn't really have like a mental framework to help me like channel it, right? It was just raw talent, raw ambition, raw energy. So I found myself just going the normal lane, right? Go to college, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, right? So became a software engineer, and I would literally just get raises, get promotions because I just had this drive, and ended up in the golden cage, right? So like I'm leading teams all over the globe. Like I have remote teams in Costa Rica, in India, in China, multi-level or multi-million-dollar projects. So that experience was great, but I still had that entrepreneurial drive in me. So I'm looking for something all the time. Like I'm working, I'm starting these side businesses. I had like a SaaS company.
Okay.
I had a physical product, like a baby diaper company at one point. Yeah. So when my wife got pregnant, we were just like, hey, we're buying all these diapers. Why don't we start a diaper company, right?
Yeah.
So we went to China. We sourced manufacturers. We sourced like fabrics and all that kind of stuff.
Jesus.
So yeah, I had an interesting run, but while working full time, I had all these businesses. Going back to what I said earlier about financial freedom, autonomy, and making a change, right?
Yep.
So my brother, he started working with me at the same company, and he started doing stocks. So this is probably about 2017.
Okay.
So he's trading equities, and we're all ignoring him. He's just telling us what he's doing. We're like, stock market, what are you doing, right? And I think like one month he made about 30K.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, is this luck? Is this a scam? What's going on, right? So he's telling us he's trading penny stocks.
Yep.
I'm sure he came across like, some of the guys that we know,
Of course.
right? And then one month he made our annual salary, and I was like, damn, okay. So now you got my attention, right? So he just left the company, and I'm like, all right, this is it, right? I need to look at what he's doing. I need to figure out what this whole trading thing is. And that's how I got started, or I got interested. So it wasn't really like I was into the stock market.
Yeah, yeah.
It was really like I have an end
Yep.
in mind, and I'm looking for the means. Like what can I do that will allow me autonomy? Because from what I understood at that time was that trading was like self-development, self-driven. You didn't have any, there wasn't a cap or a ceiling. So that's why trading, like initially, from what I knew at the time, it attracted me.
By now, you know our show is sponsored by Cobra Trading. I use them every day, and for good reason. I love the fast execution and the great customer service. And it's not just me saying this. Both Benzinga and Forbes Advisor awarded Cobra Trading best-in-class ratings in multiple categories for day traders. You can sign up now with the Be the Trader link below, and Cobra will give you 100 days of free commission, 3 months of free software, and 33% off commission for life. I know you'll be as happy as I am when you trade with Cobra. Now let's get back to the show. That's a lot, man. Anyways, what's interesting is, first off, I like how you built the foundation of what you're always trying to change. You want to make an impact, you want to have autonomy, and you want better financial freedom. And that's a lot, and it really surprises me that you're able to distinguish exactly what you're trying to accomplish at such a young age, because I wasn't thinking like that at all. I just had the drive, right? And what I'm curious about is, like, you see your brother make, someone's salary in 1 month, right? And what happens next? I mean, I know you say like that got you looking in that direction. If it's me, I'm asking my brother. So what happens next?
Yep. So, man, this is where things went wrong.
Oh, okay, I didn't expect that.
This is a bad turn, right?
Yeah.
So instead of like talking to my brother about equities and what he was doing, I had a friend that had been inviting me to trade, right? He's been trying to get me to trade. And this is a great guy. I love the guy. But I went into Forex, right?
Okay.
So multi-level marketing company where they, get you to try to recruit people. But Forex was the product, basically, right? So I entered into the Forex ecosystem. So they have, it's pretty insulated, like all the education, the social media, all of the marketers or whatever.
Okay.
So I entered into that ecosystem, which is insulated from like the S&B Capitals, the Trilliums. They have their own like way of thinking about how to become successful. So once I got into that ecosystem, I'm there, I'm finding these educators, I'm in these academies, I'm taking these courses. And I never looked back until maybe about 2 years later, right? Like I never talked to my brother again about stocks or equities until about two years later. So I can tell you about that little journey, but
yeah. No,
but
I'm curious about that.
So
Like,
entered into Forex and
the 2-year journey without your brother, what was that like? Because I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, so since I was already working in corporate, like
Yep.
I had been, this was like about 2019, and I was about maybe 29, 28.
Okay.
So I'd already been in professional environments, so I knew the language of professionals. I knew that I needed to learn the domain language of trading. So I read a lot of books, right? So even though I was in the Forex space, I was devouring books. I read all the Market Wizard series.
Yep.
I read all of Trading in the Zone.
Mark Douglas.
Mark Douglas,
Man,
yeah.
rest in peace, Mark.
Yeah, rest in peace, Mark Douglas,
favorite.
right? Yeah, so I read all his books, right? So I'm devouring these books, and I know that something isn't right where I am. I'm trading currencies like GBP, USD. I'm trying to scout, right, in this highly efficient market. So I knew something wasn't right. So I went to currencies. I didn't really have much success there. Started trading indices primarily.
Yep.
Because I see the guys like on social media, IG, they posting Lambos, and they got these, they're making a whole lot of money from trading US 30 or SPYs or Qs, right? So that's what that attracted me. So I was sort of just kind of like, there was this progression, like I'm going from one educator to another, kind of like trying to look through this little keyhole, right? There's like a keyhole. I'm trying to like look through it to find my way in the trading space. And as I'm doing that, I'm reading. And the books are sort of pointing me to like different things, right? So along the way, I found Mike's book, the Playbook, right?
Yep.
No, it was One Good Trade first. Yeah, I found One Good Trade. So I'm reading this book and I'm like, prop firms,
Yeah.
I'm reading the books. It sounds like way different. Like what I'm reading about, it sounds just totally different from what I'm hearing about in the Forex space, right? So I start to
Wait. What is the biggest difference
Yes.
between those two spaces? Because I need to hear that. Because I know people are hearing So there's some people who are watching this and they're in the Forex space, and there's
Yeah.
some people I never touched the Forex space. I don't even know what you mean by that. So what do you mean by you start to recognize some differences?
Yeah. It's a space where there's a low barrier of entry.
Okay.
And the predominant voices in that space, no offense to anybody, are marketers, right? So what they give you is they all give you the same sorts of antidotes, right? The focus is heavily on psychology,
Okay.
not edge, not having positive expectancy,
Yep.
not finding symbols that are in play. A lot of the professional jargon and
Yep.
language you don't hear over there. So it's all like if you kind of like spinning your wheels trying to become profitable, and you think it's all psychology,
Yep.
but you're trading some highly efficient products, right? So you just like you're jumping from strategy to strategy, and every time you have a win, you're like, man, I'm doing good. I found a strategy, right? My psychology is good. My mindset's good. Whenever you take a loss or you have a losing streak, you blame your psychology. So it's like, okay, I got to do something. I got to go back to the drawing board. I got to go sit with a therapist, right? So there's the conversation about edge is missing, right? And building a playbook. I think that's one of the biggest parts. Second thing is, I think once I started to learn from Mike Billafury, I took
Yep.
all of S&B Capital's
Courses.
most of them, right?
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So once I started to take go that educational route, I also realized that in the Forex space, there is no conversation about like market efficiency, right? So currencies are highly efficient. There's not a lot of events that cause unusual volume, unusual moves. It's a lot of ranging price action.
Okay.
So you're just sitting there trying to scalp, trying to build a strategy around random price action, random price fluctuations, pretty much.
Okay.
Right. So you have it's a large ecosystem. I mean, it's thousands of people over there that are pretty much contained by the voices of the marketing, layer, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the big differences there.
Okay, and so I interrupted you earlier. So to get back on it, you said you pick up the book, One Good Trade, or the playbook. Which one was it first?
Yeah. One Good Trade was first.
One Good Trade. And so to continue on that, so you pick up that book, and what happens then?
Okay. So when I pick up the book, I read that book. Then I read the playbook, right?
Okay.
So he mentions that book. He mentions also Brian Shannon's book, Technical Analysis using multiple time frames. So that's what I'll do when I read books. If they mention other books, I'll read those other books as well. So I was like, you know what? I need to take their courses. So I started taking their courses. I'm in there. I'm in the chat rooms. They're talking about equities, and I'm still trading indices, and I'm trying to augment their style to fit what I was doing, right? So at the time, I was doing like $100 account challenge. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take $100 to 100K.
Yep.
So I grew 100.
Yeah. What is that? Like 100,000%?
Right. But you see all these marketers, right? They're
Yeah,
like, man,
I know.
I took $50 to $1 million, all of that, right? So that's the community I was in.
Okay,
right?
that makes more sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what it was, right? So
Which sucks, man.
it does, man. Yeah, people just stay there, man, and they just blow money account after account after account. So yeah, so I was in that space, and I actually grew 100 to 1,000.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
shit, that's great.
Yeah, it was good,
Yeah.
right? And then at that point, I'm like, okay, but that took like 3 months.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how am I going to get from 1,000 to 100K? How long is that going to take,
Yeah.
right? So I started thinking about ways that I could make a leap, and that's when I found like the eval space, right? So like the
eval
top
space.
steps, those like Top Step.
I heard of that. It's a different type of firm, right?
Yeah,
Isn't
so-
that like accounts?
Yeah, basically it's
Dude, I find that, I don't know, but
yeah,
go ahead.
so,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
So it's an interesting story. So they go under the guise of prop firm,
Yeah.
but basically what you're trying to do, you pay some money for buying power,
Yep.
right? So they have these challenges. Normally there are 2 steps.
There's a lot of rumors about
But you know what's so funny, man?
Yeah.
That's why I say the Forex space is insulated. Even the equity space is insulated.
Yeah.
Because you hear rumors, like you're saying, I hear rumors, but dude, it's a massive amount of people like participating over there. It's like if you never heard of casinos and you go to Vegas, you're like, damn, what's going right? So it's a lot of companies on that side. It's a whole lot of people. So basically, 2 step. you pass, like you got to make 100% basically to pass the first phase, and then the second phase you make 50%, right? So it's hard. It's really hard. But you basically play like $50.
You're like one in a million, by the way.
There you go, right?
Because the mission of that is to collect money
Yep.
and not to have successful people come out. Occasionally, someone successful can come out.
There you go.
But that's not the drive.
That's
Just
it,
to
right?
be clear. Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So the companies, they make money from the fees.
That's how they make
That's
money.
just how they make money. But little old me, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I see this as an opportunity, right?
It is. It can be for some.
It's a good opportunity.
But you got to
for
know
some
that
people.
going in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that have been trading for like 8 years, 10 years, they're able to go and exploit that opportunity, right? But me at the time, I was like 2019, end of 2020, so just about a year, right? That's when I started to go after, like, try to pass those challenges.
Yep.
So the good thing is I had SMB's training.
Yep.
So what I had did is I had built like I used like a catalyst driven system to trade indices.
Okay.
So I started to learn macro catalysts, right? Like how to understand interest rates, inflation, monetary policy, what impacted like the Mag 7, like the highly weighted stocks on the different indices.
The Mag 7, just in case you aren't aware, is like the Tesla, the Amazon, the Google.
Yeah. So whenever they would have earnings, or if there were like themes like AI or certain macro themes, I started to understand that and build like my strategies around my playbook around that, right?
Yep.
So doing that helped me pass those challenges and get payouts over there.
Okay.
Yeah. So from that's how I really built up my initial like capital.
Yep.
And had my first successes. So in that side, I was interviewed by companies because I got payouts. I was like in the 0.00,
Yeah, rare.
I was in the rare case, right? So interviewed by companies. I met a lot of the other traders. And I think that gave me the confidence that I needed to really feel like I could leave the engineering space. So let's say maybe about 2020.
Were you making your income? Is that why you left?
That's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah. So the cheat code over there, like the edge over there, is that you can purchase accounts, and you can purchase accounts across different firms, and then you can use a trade copier. So you basically will like you can build like $1 million account, $2 million account by maxing out at these different firms. So that's how guys that were like really good or been trading for a long time, that's how they made their money.
What's the risk there? Just curious if there is.
So I'll tell you, right?
Yeah.
So I'm making money like 10K, 20K in a month, right? 30K in a month.
Yep.
And I'm like, man, this is good.
Yeah.
And then at the end of 2023, after I had left my engineering job, the US started to crack down on CFDs. So CFDs, like you really can't trade a lot of these offshore brokers.
Okay.
That's what Forex traders use. They use offshore brokers, like because you have to have like a lot of like the licensing is very strict in the U.S.
Okay.
So a lot of these firms, they had used offshore brokers as their brokers, and then the U.S. started to crack down on those offshore brokers. So a lot of those companies, either they went down, like there was a big scandal with one of them called My Forex Funds. They were like sabotaging people. It's like they sent out, they had emails like it was like, man, we need to stop this guy. He's making too much money, right? Because they make money from the fees.
Yep.
So long story short, basically I had maxed out at all these firms.
Yeah.
So I had built up this big capital. And I didn't need to trade a lot because I had like what would be equivalent to like $1 million account.
Yep.
So I'm just waiting on my A+ setups. I'm trading indices when they're in play. When you have CPI, when you have like inflation was a big theme, especially like the end of 2023.
Past couple of
right?
years. Yeah.
So like I'm just watching what the Fed is doing. I'm watching the inflation numbers. If I have a catalyst, then I'm trading with my large account, even though it's all sim money, right?
Yeah.
But I'm getting payouts. So
it is all sim money.
it's sim, but they pay you out. Yeah, they actually pay you out. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
I didn't know that.
Yes, but the risk is if the company goes down, you lose your buying power.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
That's the risk, right?
Yep.
So, but I couldn't see that at that time. So I'm just buying more accounts with these companies. I'm passing their challenges, and I'm building this mammoth of an account, right?
Yep.
Across these different firms.
It's a cheat code for a lot of us who can't save up that much in a short amount of time.
There you go. That's the cheat code,
So it's definitely
right?
a cheat code there. I can see that.
So if you're good enough, I mean, if you
Yeah.
have a good enough strategy and you can
I
trade,
can see why you kept doing that.
yeah. So that was my strategy. I'm using S&B's method, or some of the professional guys I learned from them using that method, and I'm building out these accounts. And then at the end of 2023, they all start going down. And those that are like outside of the U.S., they stop restricting, they stop allowing U.S. traders to join. So like almost overnight, or just like within a month or two, I'm losing all this buying power.
Oh shit.
Right? So now I have to, like, they literally, like, if you had an account, they sent you an email and said, hey, we no longer service U.S. company clients. So from there, I had to jump over to futures because I was already trading indices, but I was trading under the CFD type of account.
Okay.
So I had to jump over to futures. I was already learning futures because some of my mentors were already telling me, hey, you should learn futures. It's regulated. It's allowed in the U.S. So that's when I went to the futures eval firms as well, because they have futures eval firms. Yeah. So all that time, I'm building up more accounts, and then as I'm doing that, I'm talking to Lance. I'm talking to Mike. I'm talking to different people, and it's like, I've been trained to be an equities trader all this time. Finding stocks in play, understanding the importance of catalysts, right? Understanding the broken slot machine, that concept
that's a
that
great
Lance,
concept.
that Lance made popular. So at the time, I'm reduced to indices like NAS, the Qs, the SPY, IWM, gold, oil. So I had a small set of symbols to trade, and I didn't have the same amount of buying power because I lost my accounts. So at this point, I'm like, okay, what can I do to trade more? And it's like, you know what, equities is the route I need to go, right? So I can have more opportunities. So that's when I just decided to go all in. I had already been learning because I did the training with S&B, years prior. But I just said, you know what, I'm just go ahead and make the transition. Or as Lance would say, just don't label myself as only being an indices trader, right?
Yep.
Now I trade whatever's in play, right? So that's kind of how I made the transition all the way into equities.
So where's your brother come in? Because you said I didn't go with my brother, but I did later. What?
Yeah, so before making the decision to go like into equities, sat down with my brother, just kind of seeing what he was doing before, and all of the money he had made before, it was penny stocks or stocks between like $1, $20, right? So that leads me back into the space that we have like with the small cap traders, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, that's what my brother was doing before. This makes sense for my account size, right? I'll trade smaller price stocks.
Yep.
I'll trade like a momentum style, right? I'll do my scanning and everything and target momentum style, momentum trades, and I'll scout. And yeah, that's how I got here.
Okay, so it sounds like if I can go back a little bit, you started to find consistency in, what is it, 2022, 2023?
Yeah, 2022.
2022, and that's with all those different types of accounts that you merged together and then use a copier, correct?
Yep.
And then when that went away, I mean, it sounds like you're making great money. So when that went away, were you like, did you stack it on the side so that way you can always have an account just in case?
Yeah, that's what I was doing. So that was the philosophy. The philosophy was to take as much money from these accounts as possible and build my personal fund. So that's the right thing I did. The wrong, like, as I mentioned, the wrong turn earlier with going to the Forex space.
Yep.
But I had enough sense because I've been corporate. I have a family, I have a wife, I have children. It's like, I need to stack up this money. I wasn't splurging. I didn't go buy a bunch of crazy stuff. I had a house. I had a mortgage. I bought some nice things, but I didn't go crazy. I was like, I need to build up my personal fund just in case these companies go down, and that's what I had did. So
it also sounds like when you're telling your story, it's just easy. Now, which I know it's not.
Yeah.
But it just sounds like, I did this, and now here I am. You know?
Yeah.
So what was like? First of all, what was the hardest thing for you during that time of growing an account and stacking? What was the hardest thing for you to learn, and that was a challenge for you when it came to trading?
Yeah, excellent question, man. So I think that the hardest thing was to filter through the BS, right? To keep it like that. It's a lot of BS, man. Just mountains and mountains of BS out there.
100%.
So I probably read about, like, no exaggeration, I'm not being hyperbolic, bro. I read about 50 trading books, literally.
Okay.
And maybe about 10% of them were actually good. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's like 5 out of 50. That's a lot. That's a lot of BS, right? So I think the hardest thing was just filtering through the BS and finding the real people. Once I found the real people, I could lean in. I can all the ambition, the energy, the drive, all of
Yep.
that. I could pour that into what I was learning, right? Otherwise, I'd be leaning into the wrong thing. That was a problem. I just lean into something. I'm thinking this is the right way to go. Supply and demand this, and this SMC strategy, all these different strategies. I'm leaning into them, and then as I have some failure, I realize like, man, as I take a step back, like this doesn't make sense, And then I go somewhere else, and then it's like this doesn't make sense. So it took me a while to find the right people, but once I found the right people, it was like, all right, let's go.
So everyone's question right now who's watching, they're probably thinking like, what is that filter? How do I filter out through the BS? Because that is probably the hardest thing for a new person to recognize.
Yeah.
It took me forever to recognize that. And so what is a good way for people to filter through or ask questions of themselves?
Yeah, excellent question, man. So I would say that one of the easiest ways for a new person is try to avoid, and this is no offense to anybody out there.
No worries.
But a lot of there's a common thread that you see with the marketers or the gurus, as some people would say. Lifestyle, like the lifestyle, leaning into that, and there's one guy. He was like hanging from a helicopter, and he landed on a Bugatti, and then he started trading. It was like, dude, like yo, like come on, man. But when you're new, you don't know, right? You think like, oh man, this guy made this money from.
He just paid for the Bugatti
trading.
right there.
Yeah, he just paid for the Bugatti. He's like, yeah, I just took a trade,
Yeah.
and just oh man, I just made 500,000, like that, right? So I would say that's one. Other thing is just look at verification. Like there's verification, right? So the good thing about the eval space was that they have like certificates and things like that. So that was my verification at the time, right? So it was like I had payouts you can show. They have like QR codes and all that kind of stuff. But I would say like lifestyle, if there's no verification, that's a big red flag as well. And then what you find is that there's a common language amongst like pros. It's not like a get rich quick thing. If people are telling you, man, just come over here, I can make you profitable in a week or a weekend or whatever, then it's a little sketchy. You should avoid it. So yeah.
What for you? Was there a dark moment? Like, was there? Because I know, I had terrible moments for me, and I know a lot of traders do experience. What was a dark moment for you, if you had one? I mean, not everyone maybe, but did you have like a dark moment where you're like, maybe I shouldn't do this?
Yeah, I think my dark moment was in the beginning. I was hyper focused on making money instead of learning the skill or building the skill. Just hyper focused on money.
Yep.
So I think like the first week that I went live, I lost 5K. Just blew it, just like that, And I was taking signals, it just went like the guy. He's like, yeah, you just put these numbers in, and you'll make some money. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going live. He's like, you should use the demo. I'm like, nah, man, I don't need the demo. So just blew the money, But yeah, hyper focused on the profits, and I think that right there, I leaned in like really hard, and I forced a lot, like forced trades. And because I was an engineer and I had savings and I was a professional, I could just throw more money at the problem. That's what I thought, right? Instead of, I didn't know a lot of what I needed, right? Like playbook, risk management, execution, the proper mindset, learning how to lose, all those types of things. I had no clue about any of that. So I think the dark moment was just sort of like going down this rabbit hole of where I think I can just pour more resources into an account and then just push the gas, right? So a lot of times, man, my wife had to just come in and pick me up off the floor, man, because like I blew 1,000, blew 2,000.
Hey, I feel you.
Blew 1,500 here,
And sometimes when you blow it and you know what you're doing, that you're blowing, like you're just doing it.
Yeah. So I remember distinctly. I took off of work for 30 days, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna learn how to trade in 30 days. And I went to stay with my brother, the one that traded equities, and my wife. I had set a wife and children, but I was like, all right, look, babe, after these 30 days, we're gonna be like, it's gonna be on.
That's right.
So because I'm thinking about trading like anything else, where it's like when I was in school or when I had other professions, like when I became a coder, I could,
You
I can
expedite
just, yeah, I can expedite the process by just putting in more hours, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what I thought. So
Yeah.
I can plow through books, plow through courses, and then maybe this 30 days I'll come out and I'll be a trader, right?
Right.
So during that time I was in a signal room, and Tesla had like a stock split, and everybody in the room is like, yeah, after the spot, after the split, price it's gonna go up. So like I dropped like a fat lot. And at the time, I thought we were gonna go long, and then it just like we went short, and I just like added in, kept going short, I added in, and everybody in the community did the same thing because we're all following this guy or whatever,
Yep.
right?
You mean it was falling, you were going long?
Yeah, I
Okay,
went
okay,
long,
okay,
and
good.
it was just falling,
Yep.
right? It was falling. I had went long, and then I'm like adding as well, because I'm like, no, it has to go up, right?
Oh,
This
yeah,
is
it
this is
has
typical,
to
right?
go
It has
up.
to go up, right?
Yeah.
This is the typical person's mind, right? Mindset,
course, yep.
coming in. So yeah, you're like I'm like it has to go up, and I just froze, right? I'm watching it, I'm watching the money just leave my account, and I couldn't do anything. I was just frozen at that time. I'm making prayers and all kinds
Yeah.
of stuff. Yeah. So at that time, I think that was one of the losses that I was like, you know what, I really got to change. This is not it. This is not what this can be about. This can't be what trading is, right?
Right.
So I lost the money, took a loss. I finally cut it. It never went back up until like later, right?
Yeah.
And I would have lost way more. So finally cut it, and I think that was a turning point for me.
Do you have new rules that help you prevent that deer in the headlights?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like that was
What do
like
you do now to prevent that?
yeah. So I mean, I cut like fast now.
Okay.
I'm in a lower time frame trader,
Okay.
right? And I understand the dynamic between risk to reward
Yes.
and win rate, right? So I cut my losers and I let my winners run. Like Tom Hogarth says in his book, The Best Losers Win.
Yep.
He says most people have hope when they're losing, and they have fear when they're winning.
Yeah, I love
right?
that quote.
Right.
I love when you said that.
So you should have fear when you're losing, and you should have hope when you're winning, right?
Yep.
So I read that book some time ago, and that helped me like change my perspective of losing. Right. We have to take losses at times. Like Mark Douglas, he talks about how the losses you take are your tuition or
Right.
your entry fee, like that you pay, right? But because of the back testing, because I've had data, right? My computer programming skills have come in handy, right? Like Polygon, I can build a program and
snap.
grab,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, that's
so
a good point.
yeah, having all the data has really helped me, right? So I know like my average win rate, average R&R, so I know there's going to be losses,
Yes.
right? So I've done exercises to train myself to a long time ago. I mean not long time, just years ago.
Yep.
To really help me train myself to be prepared for the losses and continue to see my trading series through, right? So yeah.
So I'm curious, what is your strategy now?
Yeah, so primarily my strategy now is 3 steps, right? The first is idea generation, so stock selection. Like that's like 50% of it. So I'm trying to find the things that are in play, either fresh news catalysts, so earnings, like the pharmaceutical companies, phase 3, or they have to have some sort of a headline. And then I have like grades for the headlines.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
some headlines, all headlines aren't equal, right? So it has to have some sort of, or it doesn't have to, but primarily I want some sort of news, or maybe it's like a second day or third day after the news, right?
Okay.
Or maybe there's a theme, right? Like China did the stimulus,
Mm-hmm.
all those names were in play. JD, Baba, all those China names were in play, right?
You need some type of catalyst can mean multiple things,
Yeah.
not just news, but
There
it
you
could
go.
also mean a 56-week breakout. Like that could be a catalyst with massive volume or government issued or
Yep.
anything. So I gotcha. I
Yep,
gotcha.
like DJT. I was
Yep.
trading DJT, right?
Me too.
Because of
Yep.
Trump, right?
Yep.
And then if Trump gets elected, we're thinking Tesla's going to go up, right? Because Elon
I
is
missed that.
associated, right?
Good job. I missed that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It slipped my brain.
It's all good, dude. I was up really late, that night during
I was
election
lazy.
night. Yeah. But yeah. So I need
So
a
you need a
catalyst.
catalyst,
I
yep.
need a catalyst, right? Because I came out of a space where you just show up and you try to find patterns, right?
Yep.
We were like masters of the geometry of the charts. Like
Yes.
that's what we were into. But I find that it's an eroding edge. It has an eroding edge. You keep you keep finding new patterns, and you think that this is it, that's it. Rather than doing that, I try to find whatever. I try to find what's in play, right? So sometimes I trade things that I've never traded before. There's an idea there, right? Like, for example, one country. I don't want to mention the names because people have sensitivities, but one country bombed another. All of a sudden, gold spikes, oil shoots up, indices drop. Okay, and I trade the buy on indices. I trade a sell on gold back down. Right? They stretched out like a rubber band. And what happened is later on, so everybody was fearing a war happening. But later on, just like maybe an hour later, there's a headline to say that it wasn't as bad as people thought it was. So everything kind of comes back to the mean, the average, right? Another scenario was the BOJ when they made policy changes, and you saw this massive drop on indices. The yen. This was recent, like in August, right? So I'm looking for a catalyst. Right? It can be macro catalyst or it can be intraday. Once I have that, then I have like 4 to 5 setups that allow me to structure a trade. Right? So from catalyst or idea generation to setups, and then
what's an example of what you mean by 4 or 5 setups?
Yeah, so momentum setup. So there's earnings. Okay. Earnings post market, pre market we're sort of ranging, but market opens, we shoot up. Maybe you have like a little pennant, little flag pattern. And on the breakout of that, I'm buying that. So that's one way for me to take advantage of the volatility that was inspired by that catalyst.
That's right.
So I have a few of those. Yeah, it's momentum setup, right? It's classical. That's why I say like 50% of it is the selection, in my opinion. Because you need to just be in the right. Yeah, if you're just in the right setup, or the right symbol, the right ticker, it takes care of a lot, right? So 50% is selection, maybe 30% is like the setup. And then the other 20% is all like trade management, reading the tape, level 2. So yeah, that's my strategy, or it's, I guess holistically that's how I trade.
How you approach the market. I'm curious on what would you say if you could go back and talk to yourself and give yourself advice before you dived into Forex. What would you tell yourself now?
That's a great question, man. You know what? I think I'd tell myself to think big. I think at the time I was thinking about how to make $100 or $1,000. When I saw like big improvement is when I started to think bigger about trading, like the possibility of making $1 million a year, $10 million, $20 million. And that drove me to find the experts. That's how I eventually found, SMB, right? But at first I was just like, you know what, I can just, make a little money here and money there. So I'd say like think big about the profession. Going back to autonomy, right? I was hitting the ceiling as an engineer, and trading really attracted. I was attracted to trading because of the autonomy, but I still had limiting beliefs, right? So I talked to a guy. He's like, "It's a trader. We know, I won't mention his name."
All right, it's fine.
He's like, Abdullah. He's like, if you don't wanna like make $1 million as a trader, he's like, you might as well do something else. Like the stress. It's like you can make 6 figures doing anything. You were doing that before. It's like you should set your sights like bigger, right? So once I like expanded my mind and my thinking, my work ethic changed. I started to become more serious about building a playbook. Started to become more serious about having a daily report card, building a routine. And treating trading like a actual business. So, yeah.
What would you say is your routine right now?
Yeah. So, you know what? I saw some of your interviews, and I think Lance has had like such a huge effect on the space that I hear a lot of people talk about the daily report card, right? So a lot of my routine comes from my morning. I have a morning prayer, so I do prayer. Well, actually, my routine starts like the week before, right? So the weekly prep, I'm looking at macro catalysts, right? So if the Fed is going to cut rates, right, or there's going to be FOMC, right? There's going to be CPI, something like macro for US
That's
or
so
China.
crazy because I hate when those happen. But I love it. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I wouldn't have done it if I started in equities, probably. It's just that I was trading indices. So I needed something that would move the entire index, right? Yeah, because
that makes sense.
S&P
That's
500,
cool.
you have 500 stocks. They're all, one's going up, one's going down, one's moving sideways. There's a degree of randomness there, right? So I needed something macro that would move the entire, index, right? So that's why I started to study the macro catalysts. So yeah, I'm looking at on the weekend if there's any earnings as well for the like price stocks that I trade. So I'll be expecting those, and then so I'll do my scan, and then the night before, like let's say a Monday night before Tuesday,
Okay.
I'll do a night scan, right?
Yep.
Just to see like what pop post market, and then in the morning I'll do my routine. It's just like prayer, the family, kids go off to school, and I'll do a pre-market scan. So I'll look at what I had before, what I noted like on Sunday, and I'll just readjust my list. Like, is there anything better, right? So I use a grading system like the B plus, A plus, A plus plus. So I'm trying to find like the best ideas, right, every morning. So once I kind of look at my scanners, see if there's anything better, I'm switching things out. I come up with like a top 3 to 5 that I'll be looking at for the day. And then from there, I'll just, I'll know exactly how much I'm going to risk on, each trade or each idea.
Yep.
And then there, we just, I kind of like do some if-then statements.
Yep.
Yeah. Write down my if-then statements. Yeah. And then I'm just ready to trade. Yeah.
What is an if-then statement? Because I know someone's probably like, well, he said, yep, like they knew. What does that mean?
Yeah. So basically, you have, so if-then, you have 2 scenarios or 3 maybe, right?
Sure.
So if the trade or if price does this one thing, this is what I'm going to do, right? Or if it does this other thing, this is what I'm going to do, right? So, I mean, in sports, you have the same thing in sports, like professional athletes, they have to do the same thing. They built up a repository in their mind and in their body that responds to different events, right? So like growing up, I played basketball, right? So you build up this intuitive ability to respond to events. It's the same with trading, right? So at first I would write these out like to the T, man. Like, okay. But then now I kind of have like just like general notes or just kind of like brief notes, right? And most of it is more intuitive just because of chart time, film, watching film and all of that. So I write down my if-then statements. I'll do trading. And as I'm trading, I'm documenting, right? How am I feeling? What's going on? Like,
why is that important? Like, how are you feeling?
Yeah, so I started filming my trades. Like once I came to the pro side, right? Started filming my trades. And man, I used to be doing everything while I'm on the phone, while I'm trading, man. My mom's calling, my wife's calling.
Because you think I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, I can do whatever I want, right? It was so, I stopped, I put everybody on Do Not Disturb now, right? Because one time my mom called and I'm entering into like a trade and she's calling and just naturally she asked me to do something. So I like switched over and I started doing it and I missed the trade. And then once I missed the trade, I come back, I'm frustrated. I'm forcing a trade. Now I go on tilt. Like everything kind of spirals out of control. So so now I keep everybody on Do Not Disturb. And as I'm journaling so that I can track my feelings, I can be self-aware. That's what it is. It's self-awareness. So sometimes I may be tired. I may have had a good day up until lunchtime and I say, hey, I need to go take a walk. It's getting a little blurry now, right? So you just kind of want to have this self-awareness as the day goes on. Sometimes you may be forcing an idea. You've built up this masterpiece of an idea, right? There's a catalyst. There's this is happening. This price action is there. You see this on the tape, and things aren't happening as you expected, and you can kind of be leaning in too hard. So you just want to have this self-awareness. As I close on the trading day, I try to do a review. Film. I like kind of like chop up my film. Do a quick review.
Film,
I love the film. Yeah, I do a quick review, and then I just kind of write down what I should be working on like the next day, right? And kind of I'll grade myself. Try to keep it to like a process-oriented evaluation. Yeah. So
before we start to wrap this up, I wanted to ask you, like, if let's say the shoe's on the other foot, you or your brother, and you came, and let's just say, let's say you have a younger brother, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
he's my younger brother, actually. The one.
Oh, he is? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, let's just say he didn't know trading. He came to you and was like, hey, man, if you can just lay it out real quick, like, what should I study first to at least get on the right foot? Is there a book? Is there like a certain video? Is there anything you would recommend that person do?
Yes, excellent. So I would say 4 things, 4 skills that I think each trader should develop. One is building the playbook with edge, right? Understanding just the concept of edge, like what does it mean to have edge, and finding like 2 to 3 setups, right? I think in that process alone, before you focus on psychology or execution or risk management, you can keep your risk consistent. But just understanding like, okay, your personality, what works for your personality, right? So some people, like I met a guy in Traders for a Cause. He's a swing trader.
Yeah.
He trades momentum, and he has all of these patterns that work for long-term holding. So if you're like a slower thinker, maybe you can sample swing trading, or maybe you can sample like longer term holds. If you're a faster thinker, like a gamer, maybe you focus on scalping, lower time frame trading, right? But understanding edge, I think is like people should hyper focus on that
Okay.
in the beginning. Once you do some back testing, you know you look at historical charts and you kind of get a sense of what your approach is going to be. Then you move to just understanding risk management, right? So keeping your risk consistent. You don't need to make you need to make money right now. You need to just focus on building a track record, right?
Yep.
So getting some green, getting some data, right? A few months of data will help you be able to find out if you have edge or if you can actually trade the strategy based on your personality and your skills, right? After that, I would say, lean into the execution side, right? Hotkeys and making sure that you get low entries or enter fast, exit fast, all that kind of stuff, and then really lean into mindset. I think the mindset aspect, I think it gets too much focus in the beginning because people start to risk their money too fast,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
If you're not risking a lot of money, then you don't necessarily need to deal with that, right? But if you're risking your savings, then you're going through some trauma, right? And just on that note, the mindset piece, those companies that I talked about, they aren't all bad.
Yeah, of course, of course.
I have to mention that. I wouldn't go that route if I could start all over because I think I would be further along if I just started with equities.
Yeah.
But one of the companies I was with, they offered a trading psychologist. And I want to highlight, and I don't talk about psychology a lot. We haven't talked about it a lot, but I like to just mention, like, it is important at a certain point.
No, yeah, I think so.
For sure. It's huge, right?
We might have different opinion, but I definitely agree. It's important.
Yeah, for sure. So so they gave you one session with the trading psychologist per month. So I would go every time that I could use her. So she pointed out to me that I was self-sabotaging. And I'm like, how? I'm ambitious. I want to be successful. And it was so subtle, right? And I'll spare you the whole story.
Sure, but I want to know.
Yeah.
The self-sabotage, how?
So, okay, I was working at home and I had a home office and I needed to leave the home. I needed to work outside. But I told her that I wouldn't get an office until I had reached a certain profit goal. But I had the money. I could have went and got the office. So she said I was self-sabotaging because I had restricted myself of what I needed in order to be successful. But I hadn't really put that together. And it was more things that she had like discovered from my childhood and how I grew up.
Okay.
Right. So she was like, yeah, you're enforcing these limits on yourself, these barriers, right? Go get the office. Like, you can afford it. You don't have to hit this imaginary goal that you need, right? That you've set, so you've given yourself, right? So after that, when I got the office, I've been working outside of the house for since then, right? For a few years, right? So I mention that story because sometimes our psychological issues are very subtle, and they come out like as we start to trade, right? So get your strategy down. Do all your back testing, do your sim trading, and all of that. Have a small risk, but as you start to take trades and start to try to scale up slowly, those subtleties, those subtle psychological issues that you have will start to come out. And if you don't risk a lot at first, you can sort of minimize how many issues you have to deal with at once, right? So like if you're betting the house, then everything is going to come out. But if you just sort of like scale up slowly, then maybe you find out you have an issue with greed or you have an issue with hesitation or FOMO. But if you just kind of bet in the house, then you got to deal with a whole lot of psychological issues at once, and that's where I think a lot of traders, they end up kind of like
because they're rushing it.
Because they're rushing it. They're rushing the process, right? So so playbook, risk management, execution, psychology.
Well, look, Abdullah, I know people are going to be like, how can I find out more about you? Could you tell them real quick how they can learn more about you?
Yeah. So on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel. Just put Abdullah Rashid and put trading. Abdullah Rashid Trading. Yeah. So you find me there. And yeah, man, I really appreciate this, man.
Nah, no worries. We're going to put his channel in the link in the description below. But again, Abdullah, thank you for being here, brother.
All
Good
right,
to see
man.
you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for finishing today's episode. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave a comment below of one of the takeaways that you are going to implement into your own trading. And if you happen to be listening on a podcast platform, go ahead and leave us a review and let us know what you enjoy about today's episode, because that does go a long way in helping us continue to grow. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.